Alright, here we go with a NT8 on the porch update of the Freddie Gray, whatever you want to call it. Brand new breaking news comes out today. Once again, Fox is the only one that's reporting it. CNN doesn't have it, MSNBC doesn't have it, ABC doesn't have it, NBC, CBS, BBC, nobody's got it but Fox News. So I just looked it up again. They haven't changed their story. They're sticking with it. That the medical examiner says that the wound of Freddie Gray's spinal column is consistent with a bolt that was in the back of the paddy wagon. And they're already starting to protest because words got out. But like I said, all the liberal media is not covering it. Why are they not covering it? Because they want it to happen. They want it to happen. They get more views, yo. So I'm gonna put up some videos here at the end of this.
In Baltimore, that's where we start with you, Peter, and good morning there. This report in the Washington Post, how detailed is it, Peter?
Bill, it's very detailed, but it's coming from someone who could hear and not see Freddie Gray for his last ride alive inside that Baltimore PD van. This unnamed prisoner told authorities, though, that he believes Gray was intentionally trying to injure himself by slamming his body into the hardened side of that police vehicle. But there's a metal partition that was separating the two men inside this van, so the new account is limited to sound only. All this new information was unearthed by the Washington Post. They reviewed an application for a search warrant, but the Gray family attorneys are pushing back already. They say they don't think Freddie severed his own spine, and they don't think these police reports are accurate. So we asked law enforcement officers with experience transporting prisoners if it's possible for someone to inflict such a catastrophic injury on themselves in such a confined space. And we were told that sometimes bad things do happen.
We've had them strike their head many times on in-car cameras, mobile data terminals, shotgun racks, rifle racks. There are many, many things in the cockpit of a police car. And when you're transporting a prisoner, we normally transport our prisoners in the front seat. We don't have cages in our cruisers. We oftentimes transport them in the front seats. And we've actually had them split their heads wide open on the side window, on the B-pillar, or on equipment in the car. It happens.
And Freddie Gray's death inspired the protests that turned into riots. But now about half the 200 people who were arrested Monday night have been released because paperwork was complicated and so was figuring out who arrested.
At approximately 8:50 this morning, our task force charged with investigating the tragic death of Mr. Freddie Gray turned over the contents of that investigation to the state attorney's office. We dedicated 30-plus detectives. Their full-time job was focused on this case and only this case, including lab personnel and academy personnel and homicide detectives in our FIT team. The family and the community and the public deserve transparency and truth. The task force heeded my call, and we have exhausted every lead at this point in time. But this does not mean that the investigation is over. Let me repeat. This does not mean that the investigation is over. If new evidence is found, we will follow it. If new direction is given by the state's attorney, we will obey it and we will follow through with the investigation. We will also further investigate at the request of the state attorney to bring forth any other witnesses that we find. I understand the frustration. I understand the sense of urgency, and so has the organization, and that is why we have finished it a day ahead of time.
we have some new information to share with you. On the morning of April the 12th, the police encountered Freddie Gray along the 1600 block of North Avenue, and that's when Freddie Gray ran from the police. We made an apprehension of Mr. Gray along the 1700 block of Pressbury. We stated earlier, and we're just confirming again today, that the first stop of the wagon after the apprehension site was at Mount and Baker. The second stop has been revealed to us during the course of our investigation and was previously unknown to us. We discovered this new stop based on our thorough and comprehensive and ongoing review of all CCTV cameras and privately owned cameras. And in fact, this new stop was discovered from a privately owned camera. Move forward.
Because no one else is speaking up for the officers that were involved. Nobody's standing up for the officers, any of them. And that's just not right.
And the person that you are directly related to is?
African American.
Is African American?
Yes.
What did he say happened?
He believes that whatever happened to Mr. Gray happened before he was transported.
Did he hear screaming? Was he in the back? It was saying that he was in the back going crazy maybe and yelling and moving around.
He was irate and he was cursing, he was yelling, and he was kicking. And that's what was heard.
What happened first? Was he secured first?
He was placed into the wagon with cuffs. He wasn't shackled. He was shackled later en route to where they were going. Because he was irate, they had to stop. And at that point, they shackled him. But the officers that shackled him and the officers that placed him in the wagon did not seatbelt him.
He was never seatbelted?
No. It's an unwritten, unspoken rule that when someone is irate in the paddy wagon, you don't reach over someone that's irate, because they still have a mouth, they don't have a muzzle, so they can bite you and they can spit in your face. So you have to get in close proximity to someone in order to seatbelt them.
It has been said that the police who are driving, the person driving the van, or that they will do it, they'll, give him a rough ride just because they gave him so much trouble being arrested sometimes. Is that true? Did that happen in this case?
How could they do that when the arresting officers actually have to call? It's like they call for backup. A paddy wagon isn't right there when they arrest somebody. So they have to call for a paddy wagon. So that officer doesn't know what transpired before he got there, and he's not involved in trying to chase this gentleman or manhandle him. He's transportation. So when he arrives, that's basically all that he's supposed to do. And so how can anyone say that it was a rough enough ride for this gentleman to be as injured as he was? And if he was injured in the wagon, then why wasn't the other gentleman injured as well when he's giving a statement? Why can't they figure out whether this gentleman was injured when he was being chased or where he was injured? There are a million cameras everywhere.
You think they're hiding something?
Yes, I do.
What would be the reason for that?
Because if they come out and they tell the whole story, then what do they do about all of the stuff that's transpired up until this point? There's been a riot. There's now a curfew. There have been businesses that have been destroyed. How can they go back now and say anything different? They have to let this play out now. It's a disaster. So why didn't the mayor come out and handle this a better way? Why didn't she come out and deal with this properly? There's a state's attorney, just like Freddie Gray, deserved due process. So do these officers.
According to your loved one, what took so long to get medical help?
They don't know. They have not discussed that with us, what took so long. We didn't ask what took so long. I think the officers that chased him and handcuffed him and had him on the ground, and he said that he was hurting, I think that they should know that he needed medical attention. Shouldn't that be their call to make?
How's he doing?
How would anybody be doing in a situation like this?
And Keisha Hebben now, she's a criminal defense attorney and sort of involved in this process. What is really striking is that they're not releasing any information about this.
Right.
If this were the other way and we asked for information, we'd get it.
Right.
But here you get nothing, and yet there are leaks of things that some doctors and pathologists say are impossible.
Right.
So there's all this information out there and disinformation, but they won't give you any facts, and now the governor says we don't even need the Monday morning quarterback. How do you prosecute this thing?
Right. Well, I think what difficulty is being presented by not giving the information is that so many people throughout the whole country want to know answers to all these questions. But the government has to be careful, because when you're pursuing an investigation such as this one, you don't want to say something prematurely. You don't want to get the community to become outraged by something that may not be correct. So I think what they're trying to do is say, you know what, we want to make sure the state's attorney gets to review everything, and then it's unfolded in a proper way.
Sunshine is the best disinfectant, though, right? I mean, if from the very beginning they were able to say this was an accident and here's what went down,
right,
we wouldn't have had the burning of 140-something cars and the torching of businesses and
right,
lives ruined and
right,
city upheaval.
You're correct. And you know what? I think that the fact that these officers left out that there was an additional stop, it's creating suspicion within the community to feel like there must be something that they're hiding, and that may cause more riots and more looting and more problems and more distrust of the police department.
How difficult would it be to prosecute police officers? Judge Napolitano was talking about this yesterday. If you know you did something that is illegal and would get you in trouble, you have a right not against self-incrimination.
Right.
So you don't have to speak.
Right.
But you can also lose your job as a cop based on that.
Right.
But what's the process?
What the prosecutor will do is assess the facts or the evidence that are in this case and determine if there's probable cause to say, okay, this police officer or officers committed a particular crime. So even if they invoke the Fifth Amendment right to self-incrimination, they still, if there's probable cause to say, you know what, there's a likelihood that you did X, Y, and Z, the prosecutor can still go forward and then give it to the grand jury to decide whether it's an indictable offense.
I would guess that these police officers would not have a hard time getting representation here. It's a pretty high-profile case.
Right, and you'll have lawyers that want the publicity, or you may have lawyers that feel bad for law enforcement in a difficult position that they're in, but they won't have a problem getting representation at all.
Are you at all surprised from a legal standpoint of the way they handled the other night? I hear the police spokesman when he says, this was a bunch of kids. What did you want us to do exactly? Did you want us to overrun these kids and end up with a lot of people hurt or killed in addition to the mayhem that they already had? I understand that, but some clarity on what happened that night, what the decisions were, that would be helpful, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel that they did not react fast enough, or they didn't take the possibility of this happening serious. And as a result, a city's practically destroyed. And, you know, so much has happened, I think, could have been prevented and more planned. And they saw what happened in Ferguson. It's happened for many years in different cities. So I think they should have acted sooner.
I wonder, you know, it's possible they only have 30-something hundred on their police force.
Right.
Maybe they didn't have the personnel. It sort of sounds that way. And maybe they didn't want to start killing kids, because you talk about problems.
Right. I get that, but they should have called in help sooner, even from other departments or from the federal government, like they eventually did.
A lot of investigating to be done. It's unfortunate that mayor won't answer questions.
I know. And the community wants answers. Everyone, we want answers, you know, so it's to a point now where there needs to be some clarity and some information provided.
You know, Keisha Hebben, it's nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
All right, hang on now. I want you to read this headline here. Report: Gray died of broken neck suffered in van. The local ABC affiliate, WJLA, reported sources said the medical examiner's report contained in the police report handed over Thursday to the state attorney found Gray's wound was consistent with the bolt inside the back of the police van. Wow. Did he do himself in? We will see. To let you guys watch, and I'm going to put a link into the Fox story so you can read it for yourself. The Washington Post was the first one to break the previous story that had happened inside the van. And if I can find it, I'll try and put that link in there too. Man. CNN, NBC, CBS, ABC, you guys got it going on. Because so many people look at you with, you know your shit. But Fox News, remember, Fox News is biased. It's always right-wing side. You can laugh at their fair and balanced reporting statement. Kiss my ass. Don't ever jump to conclusions on this bullshit. The way the press puts shit out, the media, the way the media puts shit out. Don't ever jump like a frog. Oh, that lily pad looks greener, doesn't it? Let me jump over there. Nigga, please. Later.